My favorite one is still the one where he's breathing in, bro. What the fuck are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about right now? Why did you show me that? It's his fucking face. Hey, I got another one for you. Oh, come here. Oh.
Welcome back to another episode of the PO3 Podcast. My name is Marx.
Yo, just John here.
All right. That's been I don't know why it feels like it's been a long ass 2 weeks.
You know, it really does feel like a long ass 2 weeks.
I was like,
is it Monday
did I
yet?
miss a week? I feel like I missed
you didn't
a week.
upload that last Monday.
It's a long story.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry about it.
I was just like,
well, I'm actually going to put out the one right after that, probably this week. So it's
okay. Just catch up.
Yeah, just to double up.
Gotcha.
So I was looking through the episodes, and I just realized the last one we recorded when you were here, 43? Yeah, 43. That's not going to come out till October 4th. So we're like...
We got them on deck.
I might be able to double these up like twice a week. I don't know. But
Maybe
we'll see.
we should.
It's just because it's like a long way out, dude. And that was a really good episode.
Yeah.
So, and like by the time these come out, I'm like already...
We're going to be old and gray hair.
There's never time. It's like
7 moons and 7 scorn you.
All right, so say like there's a good movie coming out this week. We won't be able to talk about it in relevance because these are so far out.
Yeah.
You know, so they'll be like, oh, they're talking about some old shit. You know, so I don't know.
Maybe double it up. I mean, if we have that big of an inventory, I mean, October, we still got August, September. Like, was it going to be the first week of October, second week of October?
October 4th. So that's the first
October
week.
4th. Okay. Sorry, I didn't hear that part.
Yeah.
So we got about a solid 2 month worth of...
Yeah, we got a lot of...
We have 8 episodes on standby? It's about 4 to 5 weeks per month.
Yeah, October 4th. So yeah. Yeah, it's like July 1, 2, 3 months. Yeah, like 3 months in advance. That's because we're doing them every single... Well, they come out every single week. And it just seems like once a week is good, but at the rate we're recording, we could do better.
To be fair, I think... I've been, Jordan Peterson's podcast has been taking off like crazy, but I've noticed he's jumping back and forth in the release of these. I mean, they're not going in a particular, like he's not, it doesn't leave off on one topic and then they pick up, it's a completely different speaker each time, but he's jumped back and forth. Like there was like, hey, this episode you had a full on beard. And then this episode you look like you're sick again. And then this next episode you look healthy as hell again. Mm-hmm. So I realize he's jumping back and forth and just releasing them, I guess, how he sees fit to his, the setting or whatever.
But I noticed that too, because I was honestly debating, like, should I even put out these next two? Because the focus was messed up a little bit on me. And just in general, like, it wasn't as clear for whatever reason. Sometimes it malfunctions. So I was like, and then the topic matter too. It's like, the stuff I really want to talk about, which
was in those episodes?
In here. No, it wasn't in those.
Oh, okay,
so the stuff I really want to talk about that's in this book don't come out till like October 4th, right? So it's a way out. So I was almost thinking just kicking them, but they're good. They're good episodes too, still, because we talked about some good stuff in there.
Just double them up then.
That's what I'm thinking. I kind of want to double them up, and
like a Monday and a Friday release or something like that.
Yeah, because what I decided to do was like start outlining more of what I wanted to talk about on the podcast because I've been all over the place and it's hard to just kind of like stay in one lane the whole time. But I mean, there's no rules really, but I kind of want to hit on some more important things, more of the time rather than less, but also I want a good balance. I want to have fun, but I also want to speak on some really important stuff,
Yeah, of course.
Anyway, though, it feels like it's been like a really long 2 weeks. I feel like I missed, it feels like it's been a month.
Yeah.
I don't know
honestly.
why. I really don't know why.
I agree.
And I almost texted you the other day to just come by, but you work and stuff, so like.
Yeah, and I recently lost my swap partner he went to another position, so now I only, instead of having Sunday through Wednesday, I have Sunday through Tuesday. So now I'm working more.
Also,
Well,
you're off tomorrow then too?
Yeah.
All right.
Like tomorrow's my actual schedule. Like today and tomorrow are my on paper days off. And then I work a double shift on Saturday night going into Sunday morning. So the person that I work for on Saturday night, she covers my Sunday shift.
Oh, okay, because normally you were getting Sunday or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right?
I was getting Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
God damn.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot.
So when I would only work 3 days during the week, but I would get my 40 hours because it was a 16, 8, and then 16. So I wasn't missing any hours. It was just
you're squeezing them all in.
So the guy that would work my Wednesday, I worked his Thursday. Well, I guess technically on paper his Friday. He got another position. He's doing our evidence collection stuff now, so he's gonna be gone. So I'm down to just 3 days off. So now I'll be physically at work. More days. So same amount of hours, just more days.
So, I mean, I've had a couple people actually ask me too, like, what the hell does John do? Because you're kind of vague about it and you haven't really like officially said what you actually do. I mean, do you feel comfortable sharing it?
I'll say I'm a police officer, but I'm not going to go out and mention my department.
No, of course not. But like your occupation. You know?
Yeah, police officer.
And I'm an imbecile.
I get it.
I don't know.
You're not, but
Cut it. Anyway,
so if that clears up any air or any smoke in the air.
I mean, just saying because throughout our podcast, like
I kind of reference it vaguely
a lot though.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a lot. Like you use it a lot in reference to our conversation.
So okay, let me go back then. So from August 1st, 2014, I was a correctional officer at a jail, and then June 15th of 2018 is when it was my last day there, and then July 2nd, it was my start date with my as a police officer, with my new department, and then till current.
Okay, yeah, I just for those of you that were wondering, because actually I've had like on our YouTube channel, dude, we haven't grown in subscriber. Like we hit 50 and then I went to 52, then went back down 51. It's just like it's not growing at all, which is it's discouraging. But I mean, obviously I enjoy doing these, so I'm gonna keep putting them out. But I get more people in traffic on Instagram, like messaging me and stuff. Like I've had a few people that want to actually come on here, and people that want to go, via Skype. And then I got people telling me like, dude, your quality and your content is really good. You just need to, hashtag this, whatever, and just,
So it gets it hits a certain algorithm when we get brought up more.
Yeah, traffic. Because a lot of the times I'll post stuff, I just feel like it gets lost. Like just because I'm not. I mean, I'm active on there, but it's just people follow so many things, and then it depends on what time you're posting during the day, and then YouTube's a whole nother beast, and I don't understand it too much. I just figure that, if we keep putting out the content and it's good content and it's quality content, that people will, you build it, they will come type of thing. And I feel like in a lot of cases that works, but sometimes it's a little more scientific and structured than that. Like I kind of got to do my cyber homework, on how to grow the channel.
Yeah, I'll do the same thing so we can get this thing to take off.
Yeah.
I mean, I know everyone usually says these type of things about themselves or something that they do, but I feel genuinely that we put out good content. I mean, sometimes it's comical.
Yeah. See, but that's the balance, though. I like to have that balance because there's only so many times I could just tell you and talk about like I said, how depressed I am and how messed up of a week I had and what I'm going. It's like sometimes I want to get away from that. Sometimes I want to use this platform to mess around. Like it's therapy in a big way for me. And then, but then there's times where I get really inspired about it. And I often stay inspired about mental health awareness and illness and all that stuff. And I do my homework and I do my fair share of homework outside of the podcast and then try to remember it and retain as much of that info as I can. Like I said, it's been like 2 weeks, but it feels like it's been a month. And I've been reading in this book, but it feels like everything that's why I write everything down, because I wish a lot of that was just at at the front and at my disposal. So I have to write it down to make it that way. But yeah, I mean, I like to mix it up though, dude. I really, but I do also believe that the more that we do and like we're just gonna keep getting better and better and better at it. It's just all repetition, dude. Everything is repetition.
Yeah, I definitely would like to look into what you said those people hit you up for as far as the Skype. Since I think that would be a good thing. Have somebody else, third perspective on either mental health awareness or just a random topic that we decide to pick for a given day.
Mm-hmm.
Just have a third party perspective on it.
Yeah, and I did, like I said, I definitely want to get other people's third point of view on what they're dealing with, and it would just be cool to mix it up because then you and I can, throw questions at them, and who knows where it would take the podcast. It might, end up being like a 3-hour podcast or something like that, and just different content, just to mix it up. But overall, though, I mean, like I said, we're gonna keep putting the content out there, and I know it'll grow. And here's one of those things too: is like when I first started music to reference, I would always say in the beginning, like, man, it's like no one's messing with my stuff, But at that time, if they did, I wasn't ready anyways, so it was bad timing. And it's just like I'd rather when people do discover us, we're gonna be sharpened and we're gonna be polished and we're gonna know what we're talking about, even more so, and we're just gonna have it, dialed in. And it's just going to come natural to us because podcasting and conversation is an art. It's not just something that you can get in here. And I mean, you can wing it, but you and I have been having these conversations off air for years, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been diving into this type of thing on my own forever and doing my homework on podcasts. So it's not like I just started from scratch. Recording it, adding that element and the cameras and lights and all that is a whole nother element. It's just something I had to get used to. But putting it on camera is way different, than talking. But I mean, we have, in a way, experience with it, is what I'm saying. So it didn't come that, like, I felt like you were just kind of a natural at it, you know what I mean? As far as conveying your personality goes and just being able to carry a conversation.
Yeah, talking is something I'm known for.
That's why it was perfect, man. I was like, dude, like, this is perfect. I feel like I just have like a kid in a candy store. Like there's just so many aisles to walk down as far as content.
The good thing about all the useless information that I have in my head about, my girlfriend often laughs at me because someone will ask a question or a topic will come up and I'll have like, oh, I just saw a video on that particular topic or a few weeks back and here's why. Or, what I'm saying, just kind of elaborating further. So, I'm nowhere near as well-versed in this particular topic as you, but, I've heard enough, seen enough that I can at least ask, thought-provoking questions and stuff like that, and to keep the conversation not stagnant, just keep it rolling out. So, but, yeah, I think we're a good fit, and I think we have good content.
I really do too, man. And because like I said, I get discouraged a lot of the times when I don't see the channel growing, and I keep in mind all the work that I'm doing, and I don't want it to go to waste, one, and then go unrecognized, because this is an important topic to discuss and an important platform. But also, I mean, who doesn't want to be successful? Obviously, But then I go back, and look at our work that we've done, or the prior work that I did with Victor Jr. and even the audio versions and stuff. And I'm like, hey, this is good stuff, man. Like, it really is good stuff. And yeah, it varies up and down, and it goes far and wide and few between. But it's like the content is there. The subject matter is there. The personalities are there. The only thing missing is we just got to keep putting the work in, and then the people will come. God willing.
I understand the whole concept behind being successful, not doing too well. I don't want to use the word failure, but it's not growing at the rate that you would like to deem it successful. I'm assuming it's kind of where you're going with it, because a little tangent here, but I made a brisket a week ago, right? And I had it all planned out, man. I did my months worth of research on how to do a brisket, and I was like, I think I got this. Like, and as far as my barbecuing expertise goes, I've only been doing it since latter part of April, but I've grilled a lot since then. I've been rather successful. Minor hiccups here and there, but otherwise, you know, it was a win. Dude, I spent 17 hours smoking this brisket, ultimately to be defeated by it. You know what I'm saying? Like, the flavor was there. It's just there was one element missing because everyone that had it was like, dude, this is amazing. And interestingly enough, my parents, like a few days prior to me making that brisket, went to one of their friends' house, a guy that I work with, and he made a brisket. And so they had a very, very recent comparison, and they're like, yours had way more flavor, wasn't dry, but the texture that I was going for, because it was like falling apart, which isn't what you want for a brisket. You want it to be super, super tender, but you want, like, if you were hold it like on a knife, it'll flop down over both sides, but it won't fall apart. Mine was falling apart, and I burnt the bottom of it a little bit, and I was just like, I was so defeated by it. I actually ordered pizza after I was done cooking it for 17 hours. And I let it rest for 6, and I was awake for the whole thing. I was tired as hell, dude. And so I understand, like, you know, the people that ate it. I mean, it was gone. It was a 15-pound brisket, and it was gone in 2 days. You know, yeah. And so it was very, very enjoyable for a lot of people. And I guess you can consider that a success, but I didn't hit that one little mark that I was aiming for. And I deemed it like it was a failure. And I've been
personally looking at it from your POV. It seemed like you really missed the mark.
Yeah.
In your head, and that can be discouraging because you put your heart into cooking this thing, and you had a vision of what you wanted it to come out like. And when you bit into it, or you realized, at least to yourself, that it wasn't what you thought it was going to be, that's a kind of kick in the nuts.
Yeah,
it's like it messes with your ego. You know, it's just like, I did my homework. You know, I put the time in. I was dedicated, I was focused, and yet I got these results. And we mentioned this on, I don't know if it was one of our podcasts. We were like, dude, it's like, it can, sometimes that happens. Like, you can bust your ass and you can put in the years and the time and the dedication, and nothing comes of it sometimes.
Yeah,
but you got to keep trucking.
You know, but that's what I'm saying. So I said all that to agree with you that, like, we have otherwise good stuff, and it's just not hitting that particular mark, you know, for us to feel like, all right, we're putting in the work. It's proving fruitful, you know. And you know, I was talking with as a matter of fact, I was washing my car. Fell asleep super early, woke up super early. So I was up I was washing my car like at 7 a.m. this morning. My mom comes outside and she's like, hey, like, if I buy another brisket soon, will you cook it for me? Because she's like, I don't know what you were talking about, but I've been craving it ever since, you know, we finished it. And she goes, I don't know why you're holding your head down so low about it. It was really, really good. So, yeah, by everybody else's standards, I guess, of it, it was good. But by mine, it was like, no, it wasn't what it was supposed to be. And I feel like I failed, like, miserably at it. And mind you, the brisket, I don't know if you've looked at beef recently, but the price of beef is like ridiculous expensive now per pound. So I spent $94 on this thing for me not to even eat it the night that I cooked it. You know what I'm saying? So
that's a bad day.
Yeah, and I mean, it was $94 to get the meat, and I had to buy other stuff to go with it to make this thing what it was, and it still didn't. So I was holding my head down pretty low about it. You know what I'm saying? But
and
I understand.
How long ago was this?
Like last week.
Oh, okay.
So, it was. So I understand. Like, I just, whatever it is I do, I don't like to be mediocre at it. You know
I'm the same
saying?
exact way, dude. I don't like to do anything and step back from it and feel like I did a mediocre job at it. I want to be like, I did my best at it, and it is the best. And deep down, I know it can never be the best of the best of the best.
No, definitely not.
Because there's always somebody that comes along that figures out a different way to do it and hits it better than you hit it. But at the same time, I want to know that it's still quality and that it came from the right place and it came from a place of like hustle, you know?
Interestingly enough, man, which is funny, I was going back through all of my evaluations during my field training, and my second field training officer wrote down on one of my comments, Officer Tovar's, receptive to, training and blah, blah, blah. He listens, he makes mistakes, but he quickly overcomes those. However, when he does fail, he lets it, like, I fixate on that, and like I beat myself up about it. And he goes, he needs to learn how to like let it go and just take the good and learn from the bad and then just leave it behind him. But it was funny because I was looking at those for another reason, and then it was like like a week or so before I did my brisket, and then I saw that my field training officer later, and I was like, and then I just drew that connection between the two, and I was like, dude, like now that I think about it, and everything that I do for in life, if it's a failure, I like beat myself up. Like, to me, it's like I'm making it real so I don't do it again. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying it's a healthy way of doing it, but like whenever it is that I have, whenever it is I mess up on something, like I don't let it go. Like I try to make it as real as possible so I can not make those same or take those same steps that led to that same feeling or undesirable outcome.
I feel like we're a lot alike in that same way. But also, if that's what works for you, and as far as like correcting whatever flaws it is that you don't enjoy about yourself, or what, just in life stuff, if that's what works for you, then use it. Like don't lose that because you don't want to walk around just careless all the time.
No, I'm not saying careless.
I know there's a happy medium though. I mean, I know you shouldn't beat yourself up and start calling yourself names, right? But there is a healthy way to approach it that way. You should be disappointed. I mean, in the right context, but I mean, I think that it's a good way to like self-motivate.
Yeah, you're right. I think I go too extreme. Like I'm not sitting there calling myself like fucking idiot, dumbass. It's not that far, but it's not.
But it's borderline.
But it's pushing that thread. Like I tried to like make myself feel terrible about it so I don't do it again. So I'm sure there's a healthier approach about that. And just like, okay, don't let yourself forget the mistakes that you made. But I tend to take it a step further, and it was interesting that, he put that down on I think it was like my end of phase evaluation, and then having my brisket not come out that way, and then just feeling like trash about it, and then everyone telling me like, no, it was great. Da, 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 da. I'm like, no, it's not the way it was supposed to be. It's a failure. I got to go over every step again and see where I messed up and blah blah blah, and then seeing him, and then just like, damn, I guess I wasn't calling the guy a liar, but I was like, damn, I guess he really saw that.
Well, he
recognized,
a lot of people could see things that we can't, because they view us from a different perspective, obviously, and their perception is way different than our self perception, So it's not surprising to hear that somebody would say that.
Yeah.
I'm the same exact way though, dude. Except I take it a little bit further than that when it comes to being hard on myself. But I've actually dialed that down a lot. I try not to talk negative about myself anymore, and I was actually listening to Jordan Peterson before we started this podcast. I was shaving, and he mentioned something about why people don't give a shit about themselves, and why should I want to take care of myself. And it's because he put it in this context, and I'm gonna totally butcher this, and I can't say it as elegantly as he said it, but it was something along the lines of, because you know all your deepest and darkest secrets.
Mm-hmm.
You know everything about yourself. You know the horrible things that you are capable of, just like any human being, and everybody's that way. So why should I care about something that's so negative, and it could be monstrous in certain ways and in certain things in life. And it's just like that's the reason why people don't take good care of themselves, because they recognize about themselves and they neglect it, and they often compare themselves to others. Like he mentioned something about there was this one guy talking about how he was comparing himself to his roommate, and he was like, man, like I wish I was successful and this and that, and it seems like he's got it all figured out, and his bloody roommate was Elon Musk. He's all, you can't be doing that horrible if your roommate is Elon Musk, bro. It's just like, just goes to show you, like, don't compare yourself to, like, look at your situation for what it is,
Yeah, it goes back to, I think, one of his rules in his book, just compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today.
And then be a slightly better version of yourself than you were yesterday. And then with progression and incremental steps, that's unstoppable.
And then before you know it, you look back to where you were and where you're currently sitting. And you're like, holy crap, I've traversed such a long way, from my former self, And so, dude, that's what I'm telling you. I always, like, I feel like I try to slang Jordan Peterson like a drug.
Yeah, but it's very important stuff he's saying. And I don't know why this didn't resonate with me in the beginning, but I didn't know he was a clinical psychologist, which is right up my alley. That's like the stuff that I enjoy. Psychology, neuroscience, all that stuff, it really gets me going, and I enjoy it thoroughly. And the fact that, so now what he's saying basically holds a lot of weight. He's not just saying this stuff. You could tell, dude, that he's just done some crazy reflection on himself and just like the human mind. And he really sat there and like picked everything apart, dude. And it's like down to the derivative and the microorganisms of why everything, how it works, and the mechanisms of what's behind it. And it's just like, dude, he really, really dissected it. And because his answers are really elaborate. It's not just cut and dry. It's not black or white. It's everything in between. It's just like, I can't even follow the stuff he's saying a lot of times, and that's why it's hard to listen to him because it's so elaborate. But if you slow it down and you kind of like rewind it, you got to look up words like you were saying.
Yeah,
it's just,
man.
you can start putting the pieces together and understand where he's
Dude,
coming
like
from.
my vocabulary has exploded because of this, because like he says a word like hedonistic, and I'm just like, oh, what the hell does that mean? I go look it up. And then,
Bilabial fricative.
and that just like that sticks with me. Now that's in my vocabulary arsenal. You know.
But it's because he's using it in a sentence. Like, when can you use that in a sentence, please? And then it kind of sticks that way when you apply it to a real life situation, and that's how you remember it. A lot of times I'll remember stuff, that we talk about because I'll watch our own podcasts. So it's kind of like just recycling it.
It's funny how you mentioned how he doesn't just like, it's not black or white. It's going to encompass everything from white to black and everything in between. Right?
It goes through the whole shade spectrum.
With this guy, as someone as elaborate, articulate as this guy is, he's also extraordinarily humble. And he says a lot of the stuff that I'm telling you isn't even stuff that I've found out. This is stuff coming from other great thinkers and minds before him, and he was just able to.
But he understands it very well. He understands it on a fundamental level.
Well, with that exactly. So with that being said, he's able to understand it in a manner in which he's able to, in some way, dumb it down.
Yeah, because he's saying is not dumbed down at all. But
no, but
to a certain, it kind of is though.
Like taking it from what these great thinkers like Schneerson, Nietzsche.
It's like like the Bibles. It's just like taking it from this version to that. It's translatable.
Exactly. Taking it from that and then understanding it to a point where like you said, it's fun to say dumb it down because when you hear him talk, you're like, what the hell is this
there's
man
nothing
just
dumb
saying?
about this.
But he takes it and he makes it with a couple little Google searches, you're able to like, oh, I get it.
And that's go ahead. Sorry.
And to me, that goes like, he's even like, no, I didn't come up with most of the stuff. I just understand it. And then I say it in a slight way that makes a lot of light bulbs turn on for people. And to me, again, he was a professor at the University of Toronto and he taught at Harvard for many years. What makes a good teacher in that one podcast that we were talking about, where anybody could read from a book and tell you this is why, but to help people understand is, to find a way, if I had to go through 19 different ways to make you understand whatever I'm talking about and you get it on 19 or way 20, then I was successful at my job as being a teacher. And I think that's what he does with all these great minds prior to him and the psychotherapy world. You know what I'm saying? He takes all the great findings. 'Cause I'm sure whatever the hell these guys discovered, when they wrote it down in text, it wasn't the most easy thing to digest. And he takes it and regurgitates it in a manner which people like myself, I'd say you, are like, oh,
yeah, I'm definitely not there, but
that
I'm
makes
looking into
sense. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, dude, he has a lot of information, man, that's out there. That's why I always slang him like a drug guy. Like every time I'm talking to something, because he covers something like in pretty much whenever I'm at work and we get into like a conversation that has some sort of meaning, whether it be life-driven, mental health-driven, something, he's talked about it. And then he breaks it down. So I always go like, well, back to JP, blah, 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 blah.
But it's just because it's just so applicable to everyday life and whatever situation you have. Because a lot of the times, so what you said, a lot of what he's learned is from other people. So the information is out there. There are thinkers like that. But a lot of the times, people don't know how to think that way. So hearing it from someone, I just lost my train of thought. It was just slipping away, dude.
It'll come back.
No, because I try to go back to what I was saying in the beginning, and then but I had to do something because it's the way he puts out information. It's just so intricate. You know what I mean? And but what he's saying is applicable to everyday life. And he makes it. It's not that it's generalized. It's just because normal people not normal, but people that are ignorant don't take the time to look at the situations the way he looks at them and breaks them. Like you said, he might take something from Einstein or, Plato or whatever and break it down and kind of combine those two worlds together to make sense of what they were both saying and then translate it in a way that's digestible, right? And so when we hear it from him, it's just like, well, that's what I'm going to go to and use to apply it to my life and use these guidelines to kind of correct whatever it is I'm going through. And that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah. One thing that's interesting too, you mentioned, I don't know what podcast it was. We cover a lot.
Say 37.
But how it took you a very, very long time to actually like seek help.
Oh, okay. This was like 29, I think.
And he mentioned in one podcast I watched recently where he says, like, as a good psychotherapist, you can't just tell people this is what you need to do, because the biggest determining factor whether or not it's going to work is, are they there because they want to be there?
Not because someone told them to
exactly.
be there. That's the same thing that
like
applies
he said,
to an addict.
I think he said like court ordered things or something like that never works out because they don't feel that they have a problem and they're just there to go through the motions. And no real help is ever given because you can only help a person that wants to be helped. And therefore, they're not going to give you the information you would need as a psychotherapist to actually give them the help
That's why it's so important that people understand what it is that they're feeling and that, like I said earlier, why they neglect themselves, because they know everything about them. So you can't hide from the mind. Your mind knows everything about you. It's your biggest enemy and your biggest threat because it has everything on you. And that's often the reason why people neglect it. But if they understood that's just the psychology of a human, and that everybody is like this and everybody thinks this way about themselves most of the time, that would kind of give them the incentive to want to get better. Because a lot of the times you try to help them, but they don't want to be there, so it ain't going to happen. But if they had that foresight and they understood the bigger picture and understood it fundamentally like this guy does, and how I'm starting to understand it about myself and why I want to get better, I feel like a lot of people would benefit from that, because not just wanting to get help because others want you to get help and because you want to make others tolerate you more. It should be like, no, can you tolerate yourself,
One of the interesting things, about myself was prior to discovering Jordan, I thought psychology was complete bullshit.
Which is great though. Well, not great that you thought that, but I like how that switch kind of flipped for you.
Yeah,
just how we talked about Jeff Wittick and how he thought all this anxiety and depression was all bullshit, and then he ends up at Almond Clinics.
Yeah, and that's and I'm glad it didn't take something like that for it to be an eye-opening experience.
Was it him that kind of?
Yeah, because so for me, what I used to think, and this is going to be extremely the most trivial description of what I thought psychology was.
Okay. Very surface level.
I mean, like, and that's even giving me more credit than when I'm due. But I was like, psychology? You don't know what a person's thinking. You only know what they're going to tell you. You know what I'm saying? So for you to sit there and tell me that you know what's wrong with me is complete BS, because you don't know what's going on in my head.
Isn't that crazy, though? Because that's a stigma. That's
right.
Like, that's the majority of the thinkers in this world.
And then listening to this guy speak, I'm like, oh, it's not that he understands exactly what's going on in my mind. It's just that humans, we have tendencies.
Propensities to be a certain way naturally because of our DNA and because of our ancestors. And
primal
instincts.
Traumatic experiences, trauma.
It's scientific.
And I'm just like, oh, it's not that he's saying that he knows. Well, at least in the preliminary area, it's not that he knows exactly what's going on with me, but hey, 2 million other people experience something similar to this, and he's using like it's like a map that has like it's kind of like when you play a video game and like a world map, and then you have to go out and discover other, the map's there, and then you trekking through these areas unlocks other areas of the map or certain locations.
It's just like a hallway full of a bunch of doors, and you refuse to, in your life, you just ignore that those doors were even there. And then once you open them, you realize, hey, there's a whole other room in here.
Yeah, and he's the one opening those doors, though. You know what I'm saying? And then figuring out with you what's behind each one of those doors, you know?
He's kind of like widening your periphery a little bit, you know?
Yeah. So, and I was like, oh, so maybe there's more to it. And that's when I became like really, really intrigued by the stuff. And then it was kind of like, you know, I went down the slide, and then as the, you know, further down the slide I went, the slippier it got and the further and faster I was going with his stuff. And, he's totally changed my perception on psychology, because before I thought it was a bunch of BS. And
So,
you know,
so let me ask you this then. When did you discover him? When did this happen?
I was actually in my academy, 2018.
Okay.
And I was listening to a podcast by Joe Rogan. It was maybe September.
And he was on there, right?
Yeah, and mind you, I was listening to a podcast with, it may have been a Neil deGrasse Tyson podcast with Joe Rogan, and then it just went to the next one, and I was doing something, so I didn't catch the transition. And then before you know it, I was like,
You're listening.
I was like, who the hell is this guy? You know, and then, yeah, that's kind of how it went from
Okay,
there.
so if I had, let's say I had this podcast in 2018, 2019, or, you know, prior to you discovering Jordan Peterson, and I said, hey, bro, I got this mental health podcast. You want to come on and talk about this kind of stuff with me? What would you have said back then?
Hard to say.
You think you would have been reluctant to come on?
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason why when you hit me up, I was like, you were the last person I would think would want to come on here and talk about it.
Yeah. Honestly,
I didn't know
this
that.
might sound a bit like I'm giving myself a pat on the back, but listening to him and a bunch of speakers that he's been on there with, and listening to the topics that he's covered, and then people that he's referenced that I've also went and listened to their stuff, gave me a greater understanding. And I feel like in some ways I'm like I have a lot of information up here now that I think would be useful for others. And, you know,
You don't want to waste it.
I like talking about it. You know what I'm saying? So maybe not waste it, just like talking about it, because, you know, when I was going through my little music production thing back in like 2010, you know, I wanted to be a world-class DJ. You know what I'm
I
saying?
remember that.
And dude, mind you, I was hitting it pretty hard. You know, I was trying to, my goal was at least like a melody per day.
I was hitting it harder.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, you did something with it. You know what I'm saying?
No, I'm just kidding.
But because I went to a show and I saw this guy, his name is ATB, Andre Tannenberger. He's a famous electronic guy. And when I went and saw him at a stage, and he was like, whenever he'd move his hands, the crowd would move with him, whatever he said they would do. And I was like, dude, like, if I can create one song, right, that reaches one person in a sea of thousands of people, you know what I'm saying? Then that song and time and effort was worth it. And so with this, the way he did for me, it's like, damn, dude, like, he's completely changed the way I think about a lot of things in life now. And to the point where I used to think I was agnostic. You know, like, there's a higher power, but don't know what it is. But I do believe there's something out there. Like a year ago, I bought a Bible because he references the Bible a lot. You know what I'm saying? So in that regard, I've talked about that on a previous podcast. He's opened my mind up to a lot. And so I was like, you know what? If I can come onto this platform with you, and something that I said that, you know, intrigues somebody to go to search him, he might impact them too. And to me, therefore, it was worth all of it. Because I'm not big on being on camera. You know what I'm saying? So,
hey, you adapted really well, though. I mean, it was like you had done it before. I mean, the first episode, maybe not so much, but the one after that, it was just kind of good, you know, came natural to you in a way. Because I could tell you, dude, when I first got in, I was like really shy. Like, I just wasn't being myself at all. And there's still a lot of my personality that doesn't shine through on it, but it's, you know, it's just, it has to happen in real time, you know, hanging out with me and stuff. But yeah, dude, I mean, I'm glad that you found what works for you, because I feel like that's psychology in general, you know, just understanding yourself and your mind. And that's a lot of what he talks about is really important. And I feel like if you don't look into that type of thing, you're missing out on a big part of life, you know,
yeah,
because
and a big part of yourself.
Exactly. Because if you better yourself, your life is just better, you know, and a lot of people go without. They just drink beer all day and come home after work, and then it lights out, and then they do it again day after day after day. And they take zero time to reflect on themselves, and they wonder why they're having these problems, you know, and it's because all this pent up energy is just displaced and it's spilling all over the place, you know, and people are catching that shrapnel, you know, and it's just like, once you discover this stuff, self-help and understanding your mind and the way it works and why you're doing what you're doing, it's like, okay, now you can pick it apart and break it down and start correcting that stuff incrementally, you know? But what did it for me with him was the podcast he had with Yeonmi Park.
Oh,
Yeonmi
yeah,
Park.
the North Korean girl.
So I wanted to talk about that. I tried going to get the book. They didn't have it. It's sold out. I guess it's like selling pretty fast right now. I don't know how long ago that podcast came out.
It was about a month ago, maybe 2.
Oh, no wonder it's taken off then.
But if you go look at like the view counts, that's one of the most recent podcasts that's in the millions.
Okay.
Everything
Yeah.
else is in the 100,000s.
It's a very important podcast. If you guys could just type in Jordan Peterson. And we talked about it before, but I don't get, like, we could talk about it again. Just type it in Jordan Peterson and then just type in North Korea and her face should pop up on there. And it's a really, really good podcast. Like, and I haven't even got through it all the way because I want to, like, I'm rewinding it and trying to because she don't speak very good English, but it's enough to where you can understand it if you listen to it slowly. And that's a big part of the reason why I wanted to get the book so I can read it and translate it better. So when I do get that book, I want to talk about that more. Because one of the big things I wanted to talk about, man, was gratitude. And that book kind of like gives like, dude, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, everyone's life experiences, it's all subjective. Something that I went through that was crazy, you may have gone through it, and you're like, that ain't anything. And for me, it was the end of the world.
You remember when because I got home from the gym, you were streaming, and it was the night after I listened to that.
Yeah.
Podcast. And I got on there, dude. I was so anxious to I wanted to tell somebody. I was like, dude, I just realized I've never had a bad day,
Yeah.
And after listening to that, it's arguable.
It's all subjective, man.
For me, at least.
But it's interesting to touch on it a little bit. I won't take from the future podcast, but
no, it's cool, dude. Because who knows? In those episodes, they might not see this episode, so it's good to talk about it again.
The thing that's interesting to me that I took from the whole thing, and it might be wrong of me to take it from this, because out of all the things that she had to say, but when we think of slavery, we think of a period in history. It was before us, and it happened a long time ago. It was terrible, and it happened, hundreds of years ago. I was in high school when this chick was a slave. I was going through my senior year, and she was like 13. I think she said it was like 07, 06, somewhere around there. And there's just like, damn, whenever I hear the term slavery, I think of slavery here in the States in the 1800s, 1700s, not 2007. Now, granted, it's not going on in our country, but it's still happening in the world, and then to think, like you said, to think about gratitude and to think back about all the stuff that I'm ungrateful for, and that someone within a few years of me in age her mom was sold. She had to sell her mom to live. You know what I'm saying? Just...
Dude, I remember her describing because they had never, ever ate to the point where they felt full over there because food was so scarce that she was going back and forth with her sister talking about how much do you think you could eat if we got a hold of this amount of bread? She was like, I could probably eat a whole mountain worth because she physically thought it was possible to eat that much because she didn't know that if you eat too much, you're going to get full. She didn't know that was a thing. And when she said that, I was like, oh, wow, we're dealing with true poverty, below poverty. We're talking about you're surviving. I mean, that's real survival right there.
Yeah. I mean, to the point when she said that she defected and she escaped from North Korea into China, she wasn't going for freedom because
she was going because there was food.
She said, "Yeah, I knew where the lights were. There was food." And
then when she gets there, it's just like, dude, it's just a whole nother shit show. And then she has to escape from there through the desert, 40 below, and God knows how skinny she is, no jacket. She should have died in the desert. And then didn't they say they had to eat like a carcass or something along those lines? Or something like that. And they said that when they got over to Mongolia, right? They had these vials of poison.
Oh,
they said if things didn't go right, they were going to take those vials and they were going to kill them, do like a group suicide. If they got captured because it was like, dude, they had been through so much at that time already that it just wasn't worth going on. So if this doesn't work out, and it was so cruel, dude, because when they got there, the guards or whoever kept them captive to make sure that they weren't spies, right, from North Korea. They do like this 3-month background check to make sure. But as soon as they got there, they did capture them and they were holding them, but they were playing a joke on them, saying that we're gonna send you back to North Korea, and because they thought it was funny, and that's when Jordan Peterson started crying, right?
One of the times,
One of the times, because it was like, dude, how dare you? Like, dude, do you know? Fucked in the head, dude. It was like aggravating. And one of the girls actually did take the poison, right? And she killed herself.
No, she took it, but I don't know if because of the treatment that they were able to give her, it kept her alive, but she was she had a lot of mental side effects as a result of it. She wasn't the same.
Oh
anymore.
yeah. She was saying she was a vegetable after that, which is, dude, like that's so messed up. Imagine that. Like, just I can't even imagine that. It's just unfathomable.
Yeah.
The fact that they would do that to these
and
poor
then,
girls, man.
One of the things, and again, this kind of gets into a political landscape, and I won't go too far into it. But what she used was, because we hear the term a lot today, being oppressed.
Yeah.
And she's like, if you know what you're being oppressed, you're not oppressed, because what I was going through, I thought was life.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
If you're truly oppressed, you shouldn't know it.
Yeah, like I thought that was just life in general. I thought that's how everybody was. I didn't know there was such thing as freedom. I didn't, like to the point, dude, where their Bible isn't even Jesus Christ. It's the Kims
of him.
The Kims, yeah. So to me, that's
dude. It's
insane.
the fact that is going on right now in our lifetime. These are our
as we sit here and record this. Yeah,
like, dude, people are legit going through torture, dude. They're being tortured. That's what it is. And it's like now when I watch the movie, The Interview, I'm just like, this is nothing to fuck with, dude. Like the fact that people are making comedy of this is just it's sad to me. It really is.
What's funny is it's comedy, and I guess you can say it's cruel.
But there's nothing funny about that shit.
But what I'm saying is they were exposing the smoke and mirrors that they try to play to the world.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And like, hey, and like, nah, it's not like what everyone's talking about. We do have all these food, everyone, you look at what they said, little fat kid. On the side, like
it was just a decoy, and then when they go into the front of the store and there's like these fruits are fake, and it's like, okay, they're really not feeding these people.
I'm not saying that's not 100% false, but I believe there's some truth to it. Where if you were to go there for whatever reason as a visitor, that's probably the world that they would let you see.
They want to depict that to make you think, because they want you to think very highly of this dude and of the country. But it's like you hear stories like this.
And then you go like 20 miles outside that city you're in, and then it's complete another chaos.
Well, I'm sure they only allow visitors in the nice part of it. They're not going to let,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, so it's just, I although it was, written in comedy, I do truly believe that they were using comedy to point out a lot of the stuff and making fun of this guy because, you're trying to sit here and act like you're this great leader, and yet all your people are basically in a modern day concentration camp.
It is. That's exactly what it is. I don't know. All that to say, it's just really, really messed up. And count your blessings, dude, because...
And to think that the stuff that she went through, she wasn't even a prisoner. They got it worse.
Oh, yeah. Her dad, for example,
yeah.
He came back and he wasn't the same. And
like, I think that's the first time Jordan Peterson started crying.
That
because,
is
like,
insane, dude.
He comes back from this prison after a few years that was what was supposed to be a 10-year sentence. He ended up getting out because he was sick and doing some time in the hospital, and then got released from there. And when he came back to her, she was like, the soul that he had was sucked out of him. Like, she was just looking into like a vessel of his former self.
Yeah, dude.
And the stuff that he would say, like, don't ever talk bad about your country. Like, the Kims are great leaders, because you can tell he was probably tortured and beat to hell. Dude,
and it really and I'm sure it makes you think the same, dude. It's like, what the hell keeps somebody, a human being, going through all that? Like, how in the hell do you even open your eyes the next day? It's like, if it was me, I would find a way to just end that, man. It's just like, and these people just push forward, and the fact that she made it over here and that she's successful now and she's got a relationship, it's just like, I'm very like, dude.
I think she touched on it a little bit. She said that even after all that, her dad would say, life is a gift and treat it as such. You know what I'm saying? And she was like, and he didn't even know that there was what the rest of the world was like when he said that. And for him to go through the stuff that he did, and just to know that he was a stone's throw away basically into another country where he could have potentially led to a different life, and he got to experience, what I guess you and I get to consider everyday normal life, and he was saying living in those terrible conditions, hey, life's a gift and cherish it, And so I think it's like that hope.
Yeah, because she was holding on to something. Like I listened to this probably like 2 weeks ago, probably over 2 weeks ago when I talked to you. When was that? Yeah, a couple weeks ago, right?
I think it was right after our last.
It was,
recording.
yeah. But like I said, it seems like it's been a month. So there's a lot of parts that from that podcast that are really, really good.
I think I've watched that podcast like 3 times.
Yeah, I gotta get through it again. But it's one of those podcasts where I definitely want to dedicate all my focus to it. And I'll break out the notebook, dude.
Yeah,
but
it's definitely a good listen, like he said. I definitely recommend checking it out.
Dude, that thing, it gives you the chills when you hear her story, man.
Oh yeah, I watched it with my mom. My mom was in tears the whole time. She goes, "Man, I can't believe that she went through that kind of stuff," And then, to fast forward through all of that, she gets to the States.
And then she sees similarities of the way that we're leading our lives to North Korea, and it's just like, dude.
Like, I know it's like, it seems like
it's because we're so spoiled,
Well, I mean, we're not under a dictatorship, so it seems.
But it's like the
very,
propaganda.
very. It seems like it's very foreign.
I thought I was pulling down.
You got mic checked.
Yeah.
It seems very foreign, and like, no, that's never going to happen. But she's already seen some of the similarities,
I forget exactly what she was talking about, but it's something that had to do with the curriculum because she went to a college, right?
She went to University of Columbia, a very, very prestigious school here in the States.
And she said she noticed something in particular that reminded her.
Yeah, and it was, and dude, you could think about it now, like, I'll say what she said, and then I'll draw the comparisons.
All right.
She said that when she was going through school, that whenever a topic would come up and she would voice her opinion that was different than that of the professor, her grades were starting to become affected by it, and so she found it, hey, if I just kept my mouth shut, then I would get better grades. And sure enough, she stopped, I guess, in engaging in debates with the professor during lectures, and her grades started to improve because of it. And she was like,
that's
now
crazy that she would notice that.
I'm being censored again the same way that I was in North Korea, because now I'm being silenced. I can't voice my opinion and have it be independent of my grade. Now you're saying whatever I say has a direct correlation to my success in this college. And to me, you can see that now with this cancel culture stuff that we have going on. You say something that people don't like, and they're coming with, virtual, torches and axes at your door, I'm saying, pitchforks, like, hey, we're going to take you down because you're being offensive and we don't like what you have to say. I mean, there was a whole app called Parler that was taken off of, the Google store and, the Apple store, because it was a conservative or Republican, themed application.
Did you get the part where she mentioned how... Okay, you remember if someone in their family in North Korea does any wrong, they kind of wipe out the whole bloodline?
You're imprisoned, yeah.
Yeah, and then you're irredeemable. Your name is forever tainted. So she was talking about something about how one of the similarities over here is where, like, okay, so for example, the KKK. Now everybody, because of that, and this is a very, very short version of it, looks at the white man, a lot of people, as the bad guy.
Oh, yeah.
So she was drawing similarities to that. She was saying just because they were bad doesn't mean that these people now, the white, the Caucasian is the bad guy. And she was saying that a lot of people look at them like that, and that's the wrong way to think. Because in her country, if somebody I'm talking generations ago, did something that brought any disrespect to their country, then they would wipe out, and that person would walk around with the scarlet letter. You know what
basically,
I mean?
yeah. But for the family,
for the family, deeming you guilty by association, and that's exactly what we're doing over here with the way that we view whatever it is, you fill in the blank. It's not just, that's just an example, you know, but that's how we view people. And it's just like those two similarities there. And it's more than that, right? Like
Yeah, but it's like, it's concerning to me that a person that came from that particular area of the globe.
And she said it's concerning as well.
Yeah, you know, and she's like, you know, America's one of the, again, I could be speaking out of pocket on this one, but I feel like I'm hitting the nail pretty hard on the head when she said America's one of the last truly free countries.
Let's keep it that way.
And you guys are the ones that go out and defend the freedom of others. If you guys succumb, the rest of the world is to follow, you know. And now I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent again because I've been following other people. Our relationship with China right now is terrible.
It's in shambles.
Well, on paper it looks good, but basically they're sold out, or Wall Street is sold out to China, right? And because we have nuclear weapons, China has nuclear weapons. So if we were to go to head-to-head conflict, it wouldn't end too damn well for both parties and arguably a lot of people surrounding us, right? So what's the next best thing? Hey, if I attack my enemy's economy and I get them to do it willfully, then I get to control how, you know, their money, and that's going to determine how good and successful of a country that they're going to be. And I'm going off on a tangent on this, but China's also giving a lot of money to Africa right now. Hey, we'll give you millions, if not billions of dollars if you let us build ports in Africa. Africa being, you know, poverty-stricken, you know, continent with a lot of countries that are poverty-stricken. Yeah, we'll take all that money.
Like, hell yeah, bring it on.
You know, we want to get some sort of, you know, financial stability for our citizens. So they do it. So now China's basically, without conquering with force, they're starting to spread out their communist way of thinking outside of China, and they're branching out. You know, it's
trying to make an alliance with them, right?
Yeah, but now they're getting closer to us. They're gaining more traction because, like, hey, well, these guys are giving us a crap load of money. They can't be that bad of a people. And
yeah, creating alliances.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry. And it's not looking too good for us. And that goes back to what she said, because if we fall...
You ever played Risk?
I may have a long time
ago. It just
ago.
sounds very similar.
But this goes back to what she said, you know, like if America falls, it's ultimately going to be the end of freedom for a lot of people. Free thinking, the ability to, you know, to do what you want, because that's not what happens.
Yeah, dude. And that right there is a really scary thing, because like I said, people complain so much about America and the way things are and this and that. And it's like, dude, if you've ever done any type of research, it's out there, or traveled the country to these foreign lands, you know what I mean? Like Africa, very poverty-stricken areas. You come back here and you kiss the floor. You know what I mean? Because how good we got it. And we're over here complaining because they messed up my drink at Starbucks when, dude, we're this close.
The thing is, I don't think we're that close. But
I'm just saying,
but we're inching toward it, and the masses aren't aware of the. Once you give it up, you're not going to get it back. You know, and so
no, it's just like people do not take this for granted. This is something that we need to keep the way it is, because if we mess it up,
there's no coming back.
You're gonna regret every single thing that you complain about.
So again, I'm gonna hop around a little bit. Sorry to cut you off.
That's cool.
But it all ties into different podcasts with Jordan Peterson. He had this podcast with a Republican senator from Utah. I think his name is Mike Lee. He basically said during the Great Depression, so in the 30s, there was a case law that was passed with the Supreme Court. What it was for, I think it had something to do with trade in between states. Doesn't matter what it was for. Well, what happened was when the Supreme Court ruled on it, it gave the executive branch of our federal government more power than it should have had. We can't go back from that anymore, because of the Supreme Court is the highest law of the land. So what they say is it, because they determine whether or not something was unconstitutional or constitutional. They deemed this particular thing, and he cited the case law that was for as constitutional. We can't go back from that, but that ended up giving the federal government more power. We'll never get that back. And so the more freedoms that we give up to the federal government, once they're gone, they're not coming back. And so people don't realize this kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like in the podcast I watched a couple days ago with Patrick Bet-Davis, there was some guy that he worked for he was like I think he was a pilot for the Air Force. He was someone important and he did a lot of work in China. He since got out of it. He spent a lot of time in China. So he knows, so the information he's giving I would deem credible. But this goes back to what's her name was saying about censorship. He's like, hey, people think in China, because it's, you know, the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, they think it's like you can't say anything. He's like, it's mostly a free country, but there's a few things that you can't say. And when you say those things that you can't say, it's very, very, very bad for you. And think about how things are today. If you say something out of place online, social media, how bad it gets for you relatively quickly. We're slowly inching toward that, and I don't think people are aware of how, you know, in a matter of time, whether it be 100 years or whatever, I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow. I don't think it'll happen within our lifetime, but we should be preparing our future generations to give them the same opportunities that we had, and we're slowly giving the stuff up, and once we give it up, it's going to be too, like, we're not going to get it back.
Irreparable. That's why it's so important to get this type of stuff out there. And to start shifting the thinking of individuals and make that paradigm shift, and before it's too late, you know? Because like you said, it's really concerning coming from somebody who was a resident of North Korea her whole life, torture, comes over here and sees the similarities. And it's just crazy to me that she had the intellect to think that way, you know? It's like because she was so oppressed, it forced her to become that kind of a thinker. Like, she's a revolutionary thinker, dude. Mm-hmm. Like, the way that she thinks is truly revolutionary. I really think that. And even Jordan Peterson in some capacity. And it's just like, dude, there's got to be a way to just fix all of this, you know? And I think by getting platforms like this together and Jordan Peterson's, you know, platforms, not that we're anywhere near his level of intellect, but I'm just saying the fact that we're voicing these concerns is I think it's a really, really good thing because people are just out here walking around ignorant, and people are walking blind, dude.
Yeah.
People are just walking around like, dude, like how we talked about on the last podcast, the one we just put out today, how this kid's just running his mouth and no one smacks him. You know, it's just that people are just walking with their heads up, their chests out, unaware that, hey, dude, at any given moment, this could all collapse. Like, it could all be gone, and you took it you took everything for granted, basically. You know what I mean? I'm getting like hyped up just talking about this shit, dude.
What's interesting is that podcast I mentioned with Patrick Bet-Davis, they'd mentioned, and I don't know, these guys are extremely well versed, so I'm assuming there was some type of statistic to support their claim, but they said basically every great civilization has about a 250, 260 year run. Well, and we're in that threshold right now. And so,
but you can change that though.
No, but it's just saying, like, on average, historically speaking, we're due for our ultimate demise, basically. And the way it looks when you sit back, and you don't even have to zoom that far out. When you sit back and zoom out a little bit, you can kind of see all the things going in place. And it's like, which is why I'm always fighting with people on Facebook on the comment section. But, you know, I mentioned in one of my comments, I was like, dude, the forefathers that created this country came from a dictatorship. They had a revolution against the King of England because they knew what it was like to be oppressed and under tyranny and being taxed heavily. And so they fought a war. They fought a war against it. You know what I'm saying? And that's why we're here today. And it wasn't that long ago. And these guys had the mental capacity to see, hey, you know what? Humans have the propensity to be dictators by nature. We need to put a set of systems in place, and we learned this going through grade school, checks and balances, so that way not one aspect has total control. Yet, as we continue to go forward, we're finding little ways to circumvent that and undo all that kind of stuff. And it's like when people talk about the Second Amendment, I'm going off as I'm wearing my NRA shirt. Not even talking about like, for hunting or protection. To me, it's even greater than that. If you take away, you know, our weapons, and let's say in 20 years, the government says we're doing this, so there's nothing you can say about it. How do you say no? Because how our guys said no back in 1776 was through a war. You know what I'm saying? So
And to be honest, I don't think people are built that way anymore.
I think, and mind you, from what they said in that podcast,
Oh, I spilled my Starbucks.
The majority of people then, the greater majority of people, the colonists, they were against the revolution. It was a few select that says, well, we've had enough. We see the bigger picture. If we got to die for it, we're going to die for it. But this is what's going to happen. And that's why we're here today.
Well,
So
also, too, remember what we talked about? Good times create weak men. Weak men create bad times create strong men create good times create just that cycle. And I feel like we're in that cycle right now.
Yeah.
We're in the cycle of the people that you were talking about, rose up to, the oppressors, you know what I mean? In an insurrection, fixed it because, a war, we won that war, created the good, and now we're reaping the benefits of that and becoming complacent because of it. I could be talking bullshit.
No,
I feel like
it sounds like you're hitting the mark on the head, man. Like you're. I don't think there's another way that you can accurately describe the current setting that we're sitting in.
Well, no, I got that I heard that from somebody. The way I described like the good men thing.
Mhm.
That's a quote I heard from somebody. But it seems like it's relevant, and that's where we're at, and it ties into what you were saying.
Now I know we've bounced around a lot from where we initially started. But
hang on, people. People, hang on.
But to me, it's just kind of like this. What's mind blowing to me. And is no different than the whole slavery thing with that girl. This is happening right now before us. And as you mentioned, people are either with their head in the sand or looking up toward the sky, and they're not looking at what's directly in front of them. Now, do I think all this bad stuff in our country is going to happen tomorrow? No. But I think we're slowly inching the football forward 1 yard at a time until ultimately that happens. Now, it could be super hyper what's the word I'm looking for? Scared.
Cautionary?
Not even cautionary, scared. Like I think doomsday type stuff.
But honestly, dude, it's not a bad way to think because it's like, dude, you can't roll out these factors, and these consequences. You have to keep these as a possibility and know that they're a real possibility. Keep these in the back of your head. And a lot of people just think that because we've had it this good for so long that it's impossible. People forget that it's an actual consequence. And honestly, dude, this is one of the big like everything we just discussed has always been in the back of my head. And it's a big part of the reason why I was so reluctant on the idea of children, because I don't want to put them in a world where what if this does happen in their lifetime? I mean, we're inching towards it in my lifetime and I haven't been alive that long.
Yeah.
Like, what about I just don't want to, I feel like it would be selfish to put them in that situation because they would be here ultimately because of me,
Yeah, good point, man.
That's it comes from a much deeper place rather than I don't think I'm responsible enough. It's like, no, it goes way deeper than that.
Yeah. I think a lot of people share that same.
Unknowingly, I think so.
However, yeah, man, like I said, I could be super paranoid about the whole thing, but to me, the writing's on the walls already.
I think so too, man.
And that's why I advocate for firearms so heavily. You know what I'm saying? I've donated to a couple different things. Not much, but, a little that I could spare. And that's just because, like, dude, like, let's just say tomorrow they took away our guns, and the next week on Monday, the government says, okay, this is what we're going to do. And no one agrees with it. But how do you say no? How do you fight back?
Exactly. And I don't think people are built that way
and
anymore.
I'm not saying we'll start a civil war.
Hey, there's still people out there, though, that would be willing to rise up and fight. I know there's
but
those
I'm
people
saying
that still
if
exist.
they came and take all your firearms away, how do you fight against that?
I'm saying, though, I think there are still people, though, that would just, we're going.
What it's going to come down to is the people that are in place saying, nah, we're not going to do that. But what that's going to create, though, is like, well, either you're going to be the haves or the have-nots. Which side do you want to be on?
And nobody wants to be on the have-not.
So I think that's kind of how that whole thing will unfold if it were to get that far. So I think people need to start being...
Well, like you said, they're already forming an alliance with Africa. It's just like they're have-nots right now, and if they want something, so it's like, of course they're going to align their ideologies with them. Because they're not going to bite the hand that feeds them. You know what I'm saying? So it's easy to kind of... dude, money is just such a motherfucker, dude.
Yeah,
like,
money,
it'll just warp your thinking like that. If enough of it is given to you, or, if you're given an opportunity to have an amount that you've never had before.
Okay, interesting that you put it that way. So those guys, again, on the podcast with Patrick Bet-David, excuse me, what they were talking about was like, okay, who do you think's easier to recruit? A college kid or an NBA star?
Oh, of course. That's crazy.
Who's got money, who doesn't? So they're saying our politicians that are making $150,000 a year, the president makes less than $500,000 a year. How do you expect someone not to be bribed with lobbyists?
Well, all I know is there are a lot more poor people than there are rich. So,
but we can get into the conversation, but
I'm just saying though, like the strength is in the numbers.
Yeah, but also strength that comes with that hold all the wealth.
But you're also saying though, if they just offered that type of money to this amount of people,
well, look what already happened with the stimulus checks and all that stuff.
The inflate? Are you talking about something way different?
Well, no, it's just that all the money was supposed to come down to the middle class and the lower class of people. All it did was go into the hands of the rich. At the end of the day,
I don't fully understand this part.
So
maybe you can explain it to me.
Basically, what was supposed to happen was when they did the stimulus thing, it was supposed to be like, hey, we're going to give you X amount of dollars. Go spend them today. Keep the economy going. Well, people were uncertain about the time. So like, well,
they're going to save it.
I'm going to save this money. They said, I think it was either 30 or 80. So I don't know why it's a big jump. But I think they said it was like 80%. No, 80% savings accounts opened up and they jumped up like 80%, which is something that's never been seen before. What ended up happening was people kept saving money, right? They weren't spending it the way they were supposed to. They kept printing more money to keep the economy stimulated. What we're seeing now is now that everything's starting to open up again.
Inflation.
Well, that's a big thing, and I can talk about that too. But what ended up happening was there was no people working. There was very, very little, like a skeleton crew for the nation, basically keeping things going, right? But once they said, hey, today is July 19th, what we're going to do is everyone's free to go do what they want to do again. No COVID restrictions. Well, there's no people to run the stores. There's no people for manufacturing. So what happens? Supply and demand goes up, right?
That's why you're saying that meat went so high, right?
Meat's high as hell. There's not enough workers, right? And then we paid people more money to be at home than what they were working or similar to.
Dude. People were earning more at home than they ever earned at work.
So what's happening is now there's a labor shortage. And so supply and demand goes into effect. So now, hey, we don't have very many of these books. You want this book, you're going to have to pay me, we'll just say 50% more than what it's actually worth because you want it. People are paying for it, right? On top of inflation. And now where's all that money going to? It's going to the rich people because now they're getting more money for something that was worth $10. Now they're getting 15.
God damn, dude. The domino effect it happened.
Dude,
when this shit happened in 2020, people never saw this happening. I mean, the probably the more brilliant minds saw this.
I think all the
going down this way.
I think all the wealthy people saw it.
But the people that never looked at it this way, the ignorant people like me, never saw this kind of domino effect. Like, dude, it just affected everybody in so many different ways.
So here's the issue we're currently sitting with. I think inflation is up 5.3%. I could be mistaken. This was a couple of days ago.
I want to scream, dude.
The Federal Reserve, basically the guys that are in charge of all of our money, didn't anticipate inflation coming this quick.
How could you? Oh, not this quick.
Not this quickly.
Okay.
And they don't know how long it's going to be sustained and how long it's going to continue to grow. Because right now they're printing $120 billion a month.
Dude, what are we going to do?
And they don't know how to do it. If they stop it altogether, there's likely going to be a crash. If they keep it going, we're going to experience hyperinflation where our dollar,
things are going to be unaffordable.
So this goes to show, hold on real quick. Start investing money. Why? Because if you invest money, I want to say it's okay. Let me try to explain this.
This is so important.
If you own a house, right? Let's say you bought a house today, and let's say your mortgage payments were $1,000. We're going with $1,000 just because for easy math, right? Let's say tomorrow inflation jumps up, and if I were to buy the same house that you bought the next day, I'm paying $1,500, right? You're paying $1,000. As long as you don't have an adjustable mortgage rate, you're going to be paying that $1,000 and for the duration of the life of your loan. It's inflation proof because they're not going to say, hey, well, the dollar is going to take you $2 to pay for what something used to cost $1. They're not going to adjust your stuff. You're still paying $1,000. So let's say, inflation continues to increase. Your mortgage doesn't continue to increase. So it's basically inflation proof because you're still paying with yesterday's value of dollar. Make sense?
I'm not going to lie. I don't fully follow you here.
So
a couple of reasons. We're running short on time, and then...
Well, I'll try to tie it up. So basically, if today to buy that book, it cost me $1. Okay. Tomorrow, to buy that book, it cost me $2. Okay. And then let's say you're making a monthly payment on that. You're only ever going to be paying $1, whereas I will be paying $2. And if I bought it on the third day and now it's $3, I'm paying $3 a day for a book that you're paying $1 on.
Just get it while it's on sale is what you're saying.
But when you get it on sale, you're locked into that contract. Your sale stays at that sale price. So as inflation continues to increase and the value of the dollar goes down, you're still only paying that $1,000 or that $1 for that book. They're not going to adjust your payment for that book to adjust for inflation.
I understand.
So now, basically,
but hasn't that always been the game?
But it's always been the game.
It's just speeding up now.
No, that's always been the game. That's why. But that's what I'm talking about, investments.
Yeah.
Because it protects you from inflation in some capacity. Because, like, for instance, my parents' house, if inflation goes up...
Buy land, basically. Just get yourself a property. Paper stocks. It doesn't matter. Gold.
Whatever. Because all that's going to continue to appreciate. So as inflation continues to grow, your investment is going to continue to grow regardless. Right?
I fully understand that. I just feel like... Yeah.
But what I'm saying is a lot of people don't know this kind of stuff. And
that's
so
what I was just going to say that.
So, for instance, so that's why people think savings accounts are a thing of the past.
They're not. They're if anything, they're going to be on the rise. Like you said, they were
No, but they should be a thing of the past because now let's say you have a bank account full of $100,000. As each day, as inflation continues to rise, the purchasing power of that $100,000 continues to go down.
Yeah.
So because it's not making you money.
That's insane.
So it's basically if you kept your money, under your mattress and the inflation goes up, that purchasing power continues to go down. So that it's no longer worth $100,000. Now it's worth $99,000. And then a year later, now it's worth $95,000. When it's still $100,000,
you were losing money.
You're losing value. Exactly. With investments, those continue to make you money. So as long as
you're staying ahead of the curve, man.
So let's say you have with your investments, whether it's a house, property, paper stocks, which is like, investing in Apple or whatever. As long as your percentage you're bringing home in a quarter exceeds that of the inflation, you're still ahead of the game. So let's say inflation increases 2% a year, but you're making 6% return. You're up 4%.
You're good.
You're still ahead of the curve.
Don't be in the red.
But keeping your money under your mattress or in a savings account
is going to put you in the red.
Is going to put you in the red because inflation continues to go up, your money continues to go down.
Jesus Christ, people, get on top of it. I need to get on top of it. And honestly, dude, it's like I've known this for a long time. I just never really had it explained to me like that. It's just because it really kind of is, not really, but it seems like a little obvious, that's the way it works. But
if you're not told.
But if you're not told one and then you're not doing anything about it too, it's like you're already setting yourself up for failure like I have been. I'm not trying to pretend like, dude, I'm very well, like, dude, I should be worried. Just like a lot of you probably are.
So like that guy I was talking about, Patrick Bet-David, he was
we gotta wrap it up.
I'll make it quick, real quick.
Okay.
He's from Iran. His family's immigrants. He said he's a millionaire. He lived in an apartment. His dad was a cashier at a 99-cent store. This information was never taught to him because his parents didn't know anything about it. It took him to go talk to people and inquire information to start to develop his understanding of money. And he goes, so the biggest determining whether you're going to be generationally poor or wealthy is going to be determined on what you know about money and how to use it. And so we'll end with that. You have a little bit of insight now. Go out there and look at this kind of stuff to see if you can get yourself out of your current situation. Because the one thing I learned from all the videos I've watched with a bunch of different financial channels, there's money that's out there for you to grab. You just
put your name on it.
You got to put your name on it and put the work in to make it happen.
Yo, this is very, very important stuff. And we are going to end on that. I do want to talk about this type of stuff in the future. It's really important. It intrigues me because I want to survive. I want to thrive. And talking about this type of stuff is just inching towards that. But we're going to go ahead and wrap it up on that, dude. That was an intense podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you got any value, and I don't know how the hell you didn't get any value out of that, but if you did, please like, subscribe, share, drop your thoughts in the comments.
Call me out if I was wrong on something. Whatever.
Yeah, same here. And hope you guys had a good weekend and have a good rest of the week. We will catch you guys next Monday. So my name is Marcus Marks.
Just John. Have a good one.